2021, we all know we need to have a website for our business. But before you spend a single dollar hiring a high-priced expert to build a website for your company or for your side hustle, listen carefully. You, yes, you, are smart enough to do it yourself. And I know just the guy who can guide you through it. Jack Virag is the content and SEO strategist here at Nutshell. He's a marketer, a writer, a jokester, and a hardcore techie. Jack holds certifications in front-end web building languages, including JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, but spends his free time teaching other self-starters how to build and maintain websites that don't require any technical knowledge whatsoever. In this session, Jack takes a short break from making memes to demonstrate how to create a fully functioning professional website, the backbone of any modern marketing strategy, starting with nothing but a dream and a chill Spotify playlist. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the Boundless virtual stage a dear friend of mine and the most disruptive marketer I know, Jack Virag.
Ben, thank you so much. Being called disruptive used to be trouble when it was on my report card and my mom saw it, but being called disruptive now in 2021 is a good thing. So thank you. During the session, we'll dive in and we'll create a site. It'll also make a really good recording. If you want to get the recording afterwards, it'll be easy to follow along and do your own thing. Before we jump in, I wanted to briefly explain the three parts to a website. A fully functioning website is like a sandwich. At the bottom layer, you've got your domain. That's the DNS layer. So that's where you go to GoDaddy or Bluehost or Namecheap or Google Domains, and you tell the domain registrar what you want your domain to be. You want it to be jacksbananas.com, and then you purchase that domain. I'm sure that one is taken already, not by me. And that's the level, that's like the administrative level. That's where your security comes from. And then the middle layer plugs into that. You install it on top of that layer. And that's like the actual website. That's the creative layer. That's where your web pages live. It's essentially your website as a creative published work gets plugged into that, and then it's viewable by anyone on the internet. But you need those two things in order to be a live website. On top of that is like the tracking and analytics layer. That's where G Suite goes if you want to have an email address that's at your domain, which is totally recommended. It's weird having people send stuff to like SteelersFan61@gmail.com. So definitely like get your own email address at that domain. So that's where the Google stuff lives. Your tracking and analytics. So like Google Search Console, Google Analytics itself, those cool heat map things that let you see like where on your web page people were looking and clicking and stuff like that. Those are all top layer, and those plug into the layer below it. So that's the website sandwich. So we are going to be focusing on that middle layer. We'll just be creating a website visually. And to get that plugged in, there are a bunch of walkthroughs. If you go to GoDaddy or you go to Wix or whatever, there are a ton of walkthroughs that explain how to plug your creative layer into the administrative layer and how to get those set up. Total recurring monthly billing, if you use Wix and you use GoDaddy, is going to be like $20 a month for those. So it's very cheap. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. So step one, first thing I did is I went to Wix.com. You don't have to use Wix. You can also use Squarespace or Weebly or Shopify or WordPress. I went to Wix and I created an account, which is something that you will do on your own. And I clicked create a new website. So it's asking me what kind of website do you want to create? And the reason it's asking is because it's going to pitch me all these different templates based on what I describe my business as to them. So I'm going to click business. And I'm going to choose a template rather than using Wix ADI. They're both easy. They're both good options. But today we're going to focus on the visual-based design. So now it's presenting me with a bunch of templates. Look through these and take a good look, because there are different categories. We've got consulting and coaching, services and maintenance, advertising and marketing. You might find, even if you're an auto repair shop, you might find an advertising and marketing template that looks the way you want it to. And that's fine. You can edit all the stuff. You can change all the text on it, change all the colors, all the background pictures. This just kind of gets you as close to where you want to be as you can be. That makes sense. So let's see. I like business consultant. So we'll click on this one and we'll edit it. And like I mentioned, all of this stuff is customizable. So Wix needs to think for a little bit. This is its little icon. I spent years of my life just watching this icon do its little thing. So right now it's creating a website for us based on that template. And as soon as that's created, we'll go in and change everything. All right, so here we are. And first thing I'm gonna do is get rid of this. We don't need this for what we're doing today. And then, well, it's even got a name, Leah Web. So as you can see, this is a visual editor, very similar to like, if you've ever used like any Adobe product, like Illustrator, for instance, or InDesign or any of that, like it's a visual creator. You can choose like text and images and drag and drop them on the page and stuff like that. So it's really there's really not much of a learning curve. You don't need a lot of demos and tutorials to get started. So first thing we'll do, we clicked on this text up here in the header. We'll hit edit text. We'll change it. We'll change it to Jack Virag. That's just, why not? All right, so I'm gonna walk through these menus. On the left side of my screen, we've got these little bubbles, and when we mouse over them, they show what each of them, when we mouse over them, they show what they are. Sorry, I'm terrible at speaking. I'm a better writer. So our pages one is where we, so it shows all the pages that we have, and we can click on these to look at them, and it'll take us to them, and that's them loading in the background. So more on that later. We'll use this to navigate, and you can also select these three little dots next to a page and change its settings. You can change its SEO, which is something I recommend you do. All right, next up, we've got page background. So we'll mess with that later, but this is a short way to get to that. This plus sign is your best friend if you choose to work in Wix. This is where you add all of your stuff to the page. So for instance, text, we can add headings, we can add paragraphs, we can add images, buttons. Buttons are super useful, gallery. And the way that these work, for instance, so there's all this stuff. There's so much more than I could talk about in this quick webinar, but look through these and see which ones you might want to use for your business, and start to think of your pages and what you want to design based on what they have to offer from this menu. So for instance, just really quick, I'm going to show how these work. I'm going to use a button as an example. I'll click it and drag it, and I can drag it onto the page. So I'm clicking it here, and you see the white text in the blue bubble says attached to page. We're going to do that, and now it's attached right there. I can also add it up into my header. So if I attach it up here, it is in my header for good. And now if you go to any page on my website, that's going to be there because it's in the header. On the same note, we can scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we can attach it to the footer. And this whole thing down here is the footer. So that's how you customize it didn't attach it. So if I click move to footer, it'll attach. Beep. There we go. It even makes a noise. That's so funny. All right, so we'll delete that. We don't actually want that button. I'm sorry, button. So next up from our little bubbles on the left, we've got our theme manager. And this is where you choose. So these colors 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these are the site's colors. I recommend that you have these be your brand's colors and colors that complement your brand's colors if you don't have 5 of them. White is great. It displays white through black, and then the rest of your colors. So maybe 4 colors, and then the white to black spectrum. So we'll change one of them just for the sake of changing it. I really like this color though. I like this palette. I don't even want to change it. So we'll make it like a dark. Yeah, like dark with some bluish hues in it. That's wonderful. So now this is our site's color palette. And when we create things on our site, when we add text and pictures, it will present these colors to us as a shorthand. We can just use them over and over. It's super useful. This is probably the first thing I'd do if I were creating a website. All right, the Wix app market. this isn't Wix trying to sell you stuff. This is where you find, well, some of it costs money, yeah, but this is where you find the apps that plug into your website. For instance, HubSpot has an app that goes on Wix. Looks like it's not very high rated though. Bummer. They only got 2.6. Everyone else has, 4.8 and stuff. I wonder why. So, for instance, like they've got their own apps, like their booking apps. If you wanted a calendar, for instance, that interfaced with your Google Calendar, you would find an app like that in here. The app market is yours to explore, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. You don't have to though. You can make a whole website without using a single app. This is our media manager. So this is where your pictures will go. We'll do more on that later, but essentially you upload your pictures to the media gallery, and then you can use them over and over in creating your website. You don't have to re-upload them or anything. They live in your media gallery. Next, we've got our blog manager. That's something I recommend every business does, is blog. And I'm sorry, I just have to say, if you're a business, you have your own perspective on what has gotten you to that point of your business, how you managed to stay afloat. Every business has a story, and every business has their own unique perspective. Blogging about those things gets you organic traffic from people who are looking at things through your perspective. When you hear awesome stories from your coworker, from your peers who aren't your coworkers, peers with different jobs, and they're telling you, oh, this happened down when I was a lawyer. And it's like, why don't you write about that? Like, that's where it goes, and it gets organic traffic. So anyways, I'm sorry, I'll rant about this, but you should always blog, no matter what your business is. This is the online bookings bubble. We're going to skip this for now, but if you want people to be able to book time with you, for instance, if you're like a stylist and this is your stylist website, you totally want to set this up, and it allows people to book time with you. It syncs with your calendar, so you can just check your calendar and see if you have an appointment. It's very cool. And then Ascend by Wix. This is their marketing and SEO stuff. This allows you to make some customizable changes to your site and add some deliberate SEO, some technical SEO on the back end. So, all right, we've done nothing. We've just talked about these tools. So let's get in here. The first thing we're gonna do is we'll change this photo here. It's a great photo, but we need to change it. So the way this page is created, and remember this is a template, is this top part here is a strip, and you see when I click on it, it shows its columns. It's got this column on the left with the big text, this column on the right with the Learn More button. Column 2 has this photograph. Column 3 is the About section. You can see they're all strips, and that comes up on the page. You don't necessarily have to use strips in designing your website, but once you start looking at page design in terms of strips, you kind of realize that everybody does it. And they do it for a couple of reasons. One, it looks cool, and that's just how pages tend to get designed anyway. And two, it when you create elements in a strip and you lock them to the strip, you can think of them that as like tacking them on like a dartboard in these visual editors. And that makes it easier for the page to render in the user's browser window. If they're on a tablet or a mobile device or something like that, it can go by strip, and it knows that these things are on these spots on the strip, and they're not just like floating in cyberspace. And so you tend to lose less of your design elements when you use strips. So start thinking about things in terms of strips. And if you were to design your own web page, what would the strips be? And what would be your landing feature? And what would be on the second strip? And it's just, you start to think like that after a while. So we'll change this background, and we'll upload a new image right from my computer. And it's taking a little bit to load. That's okay. We're doing a few things at once. We're doing a live webinar. All right, so we'll upload. All right, so we're going to use the featured image that I created for a recent blog post with the help of my coworker, Rebekka. It's bananas in a row, and we were very happy about it. So that has been uploaded to our media gallery. It's selected, so I'm going to click change background. Bada bing, bada boom. we've got bananas. And I'm going to click on this again. Oops, it was there. It was there the whole time. And so in picture settings, this will let me do a little bit more customization. I'm going to set the color behind the image to, these colors kind of clash. We'll just set it to white, and we'll set the image opacity to, we'll set it at a cool 73. That's nice there. Okay, so we've washed it a little bit, so it's not, what the opacity does, it means how see-through your picture is. So we've got white behind it, and the picture is 73% opaque, so you can see a little bit of the white behind. That's a great tool also for if you have a picture, but you just need it to be a little bit more blue. Instead of editing it in Photoshop, you can upload the picture and then just like create the blue layer. It's totally a hack and totally a shortcut, but it's something a lot of designers do. So we've got our about section. This is another strip. And we've got a paragraph here. We can change it. We can edit it. So we can change the text color when we're in the text editing screen. We can change the font. You can also change your font families in your page settings. If you want to use a different font as default, you can set those defaults. So we'll change this. We'll not change it that much. We'll change the color on this to our nice deep blue right there. I didn't have it selected. I swear I've done this before. All right, yeah, we did. Great. Okay. So that looks nice. You can barely tell. All right, and we'll change this photo as well. This lady looks great, but we'll go ahead and change it. So we'll hit change column background. And we've got their stock photos. There's someone doing like a very uncomfortable looking yoga position. We'll use that. It's a dancer, I believe. And then we'll change the opacity on that. Get rid of, just mute those harsh flesh tones a little bit. That looks great. It is awesome. What do we have here? We've got we've got this thing that is literally broken. So the Wix templates aren't perfect, and this thing literally, I don't know if you can read this on my screen. It says access denied and just like an error code. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. We're getting rid of that. I don't know what it was, but we don't want it here. And that's what happens when you use these templates sometimes, is you'll have to delete things. So that's a great example of that. And so now we've got this big space. We've got this strip here. We've got this strip above it. So we'll grab this strip and we'll just drag it up. And it looks kind of sketchy what I'm doing. There we go. Now you can see. I've dragged it up there. And you can see the lines that appear when I get close. It kind of locks it. It helps you if you have like a shaky hand or something. It's great. So now that's locked in there. And we'll select all these elements. So I'm going to hold the shift key and click. And I click again and again and again and again. And then just drag them up. Great. And we'll lock those onto that strip. Looks wonderful. You would never know that this template completely broke a second ago. All right, we've got our latest posts, our testimonials. I think we should add a strip here. So we're gonna hit our little plus. Oh, and there's a blank strip here from the thing that we deleted. I'm gonna press the delete key again, and we'll add a strip. And from strip, they come with these columns. So I like the way that this one looks. Again, these are all customizable, editable. And we'll just drop it right in there. Bada boom. And so the first thing we'll do, we'll delete this text. All right. So we'll add a text element here as well. So we'll change the background. Change strip background. And then I'm clicking on image. All right. And we'll go to our site files. We'll reuse that banana photo. The customers would never expect this. Excellent. We'll change the settings. We'll put a white behind it. We'll wash it out a little bit. There we go. And we're going to put text over this. So I'm washing it out a lot. I'm going to click add. I'm going to go to text. I'm going to do a heading, H2. And we'll just put that right over. And now that it's attached, and we'll drag it to center it in the middle of the strip. You can see my lines appear, my guidelines. So now I know that it's in the center, and we'll edit it and we'll say, you thought you'd never see these bananas again. Bananas. There we go. All right. And we'll drag this. We'll try to make it fit on 2 lines. Yes, that's great. Pull it over here, put it in the center, and I'm going to click again and go back to the edit text menu. And I think we'll make it bold, and I think we'll make it centered. There we go. That's great. I don't know what we're selling, but they're definitely buying it after seeing this website. Okay, so our latest posts. This is a post list. This is a really unique element to have on the webpage. It pulls from your most recent blog posts. So I would recommend having this on your homepage because you're going to be blogging, and it'll pull the featured image with the title of the post over it. And so we'll click manage post. We'll see how this works, and we'll kind of take it apart right here on the fly. Let's see if I can explain it. If it ever loads. So now we've got this loaded, and these are our most recent blog posts, and they're filled out by default. So this allows you to mess with these a little bit. Yeah, so we can just select and delete a couple if we want to. This is right from our blog dashboard. So it loads that whole thing when we click that. So that's a cool element to have on your page. We'll X out of this. Thank goodness that did not take 5 whole minutes to do. So this is a cool feature to have. Testimonials. So this is cool, but you know what? This is not why we're here. We're going to create a form. So in our footer, this is our footer right here, and we've got a sign up form for the email newsletter. So we click on it, and this is what happens. It comes up with this get subscribers pop up, and it lets you know how to do this. We'll ask for it politely to never show us this again. And we'll click on form settings, and we'll take this apart so you guys can see how this works. And it's so easy to make your own forms on this. It's just like free lead capture stuff. All right. So it brings up this get subscribers thing, and we'll go to settings. What is the name of this form? So you can have multiple forms on your website. This is called subscriptions to. I wonder. All right. So we'll change this. We'll just sign up for a party. So we'll call it that. And when you manage your forms through other parts of this website, you can see them by the name of the form itself. All right, so email notifications. Who do you want to notify when this form is submitted? So you can add other emails. Right now it's going to my personal email address. I get a lot of spam there. If you send me fan mail, I probably won't see it. So we can add other emails right here. All right, so if I'm gonna click don't show this again. So this is basically saying they're not gonna show up in our site's inbox, which is shorthand for our, they mean our site's dashboard essentially. So I'm gonna say yes, I'm sure. And in theory, what I would do is change this to ben@nutshell.com. And then my buddy Ben would get all these and not me. And so if you have a site that's collaborative, you can set up an email address to just collect these. Like they would typically go to like sales at your domain or like help at your domain, for instance. You can also set them up, and I don't think this form lets us do. Yeah, it does. So I can add a contributor. So if I don't want to send it to a shared email address, I can also add new contributors one by one, and it's gonna spend forever loading this thing. So that's the thing about Wix. It takes quite a while to load. All right, see, this takes us back to the dashboard. The idea is to leave the dashboard. We don't want to be there. Okay, so just to go over that last part, we can add other contributors to this as well. So submit message, this is what your user sees. So thanks for subscribing is the default text. That's pretty good. Thanks for coming to the party. How long should the message show after submission? How long does it show? We'll have it show for 5 seconds. We want people to really digest what this says. You can also change what happens when they submit a form. Right now, we're just showing the success message. You can link to another website. Like you can have a whole landing page that says like, you just submitted a form. That's awesome. You can do a light box. A light box is what marketers call pop-ups that come up on your screen. They call them light boxes because everyone hates pop-ups, but light box is a less common word. Not everybody hates light boxes already. All right. All right, so we can also accept payments on this form. If we wanted so we can send them to checkout if this is an e-commerce thing. Frankly, if you're going to be doing a lot of online shopping and stuff, I would go with Shopify.com and not Wix. Wix started off as this visual editor and then kind of tried to add like the payment thing. Shopify has been payments since day one, so it might be an easier experience rather than trying to figure out this late to the game payment stuff. All right, conditions, customize it based on viewers' answers. That's cool. Okay. All right, so we've clicked through our form settings, and so we'll go ahead and we'll add a new field to this. And we'll just say, so we've got all these custom fields that we can choose from. The reason it lets you choose all of these is because, well, for two reasons. One is because it makes your data neat. When someone fills out a form, you can picture the spreadsheet, first name, last name, email, phone, etc. And that's how the data is saved. So that makes sense. And it's also because Wix may or may not try to encourage you to purchase their CRM. So when users fill out this form, it would be easy to manage them if you had Wix's CRM. Fear not, every CRM integrates with this stuff. So you don't have to use Wix's CRM just to capture forms on the website. That would be ridiculous. So we've got their email address, and we'll just ask for a basic field. We'll do a short text field. So we'll add that. And it appears down here. You can see our form now looks super sloppy. So I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to drag this over. And now it's trying to tell me about columns and strips. Thanks. So we'll drag this over here. All right. And we'll edit this. So we'll click on this and we'll go to edit field, add answer here, and we'll change the title of it to, oh my gosh, I can't type. Do you like parties? All right. Placeholder text. We'll change the placeholder text to absolutely. So now, and we'll say this field is required. Okay. All right, so now we've made some changes to the home page. We'll go ahead and we'll click preview, and we'll see how this looks for the users. All right, still not looking great because we just made some crazy changes to this template. So the cool guy at gmail.com. We'll mess with this form. We'll see what happens. Do you like parties? And I'll say yes, and I'll hit subscribe, and we'll see our text that we said. Thanks for coming to the party. Very cool. So we'll see how these pictures look. You thought you'd never see these bananas again. And then our bananas, and then the person who is bent up like a pretzel. All right, so we'll go back to the editor. Okay. So we made some changes to the home page. We'll create a new web page very quickly. So we'll go to our pages, and we've got our home and about and contact. We'll hit add page. And call it bananas. Why would we call it anything else? All right. So that immediately took us over to the bananas page. And as you can see, I don't know if anyone noticed this. I didn't notice it at first. In the menu, in the header, this menu is set to auto pull from the pages that we have. So when we created the page called bananas, it changed it in here as well. So we can manage that. If we don't want bananas to be in the header, we can just change that. Menu items. Yeah, bananas. We'll just remove it from the menu. So it's still a page, and it's still the page that we're on, but now it's not in the header menu. And that's going to be useful as you create more and more pages and landing pages and stuff like that. You don't want your landing pages to be in the header of your website. That would be ridiculous. So this will be essentially a landing page. So and as you can see, we've got the same footer from the last page. It saved our form that's just kind of stuck there in the middle of the footer. So when you create your own, obviously you'll make it look nicer than this. We're trying to demonstrate the functionality. We're not necessarily making our footers look great. So we'll change the background of this page. And we'll just use one of their stock photos. These photos are actually really nice, a lot of them. And we'll use these nice colors. It's great. It's not going to be too intrusive. And we got to do this. We're going to make it about 70% opaque. And we've got this purple behind it. I think it looks great. So this is our landing page. So you would deploy a landing page if you're trying to draw traffic from a specific place to a specific place about a specific thing. For instance, if I'm running a promotion, I would say go to jacksbananas.com/banana for more info. And that's our landing page. And everyone who is there for more info. They're there for a targeted purpose. It's not just a page that someone stumbles upon on the web page. That's why it's called a landing page. People land there from wherever you've driven them from. That makes sense. All right, so this will be our landing page. We'll add a heading 1. We'll attach it to the page. All right. That does not look great right there. So we'll change it. Say, you found us. We'll use an exclamation point. I don't typically do that in my own marketing, but this is such a unique site that it's okay for us to do that. And let's see how white, we'll stick with black. Black's fine. All right. We'll throw it, you know what? We'll just throw it right in the center, just classic landing page style. That's great. Edit. We'll go to alignment. We'll make the text centered. And then, I don't like this strip. We're getting rid of that. And we'll drag our footer down so we've got room for more stuff. Drag, there we go. Skirt all the way down there. That went nowhere. Okay. All right, that's fine. And we'll add a button to download the resource that the users came to this page looking for. We'll say that if this landing page were for users to download our guide to growing ripe bananas, then we would put the download right here. So we'll change the text on the button. Download now. What does it do? So we'll click on this and we'll change it. What do you want to link it to? And we'll say a document. And we'll link it to, so I can upload a file from my computer. I'm not going to do that necessarily, but if you had a PDF, for instance, that you wanted users to be able to download from your landing page, this is where you would put it. Bada bing, bada boom. And you can also, this is a pro tip that everybody should do. You can have this button be a part of a form, just like this one that we created, so that when people fill out the form, they can download the piece of content. And that's a great way to capture people's first names, last names, email address, etc. You might even sign them up for your newsletters if they download your thing. So that's a great way to capture leads. And we did it. We goofed around and we did it in about 5 minutes. So, all right. A few other things we should touch on the blog. So we'll go to the blog. We'll create a post. And we'll just talk about blog strategy for a little bit and how to get a little bit of traffic to your site from the blog. So on your blog, you absolutely must do keyword research before you start blogging. If you write about just whatever, and a dream you had and you publish it, there's a very, very slim chance that anyone else will ever see it on the internet. The way to get that organic traffic and the way to get that reputable domain authority is by publishing things that have concise SEO, and that basically, for all intents and purposes, on your blog means concise keywords. And it's written well. It's not like formatted in a ridiculous way that the bots can't understand. So if our website that we created together today about bananas was trying to rank, if this were an actual client, the first thing we would do is start blogging about things that aren't just the key phrase bananas. We would blog about Southern California bananas, for instance, or I don't even know if you can grow bananas in California, but whatever is not already completely competitive in the keyword space are the keywords that we would want to chase. And then when you're writing your blog, once you have your topic, so if the topic is how to grow bananas in Southern California, you would type in some related questions into Google. This is there are tools for this, but if you're just getting started, maybe type in, can you grow bananas in Southern California? And Google will present you with a little box like amidst the search results. And it'll say, people also ask. And in that box, it displays what it thinks are the related search queries to that. And that's a tip of the hand. That means that Google thinks that these are the related search terms and the related keywords. So you'll use those. So if you typed in, you wanted your blog to be how to grow bananas in Southern California, you would go to Google and you would ask, can you grow bananas in Southern California? And then it would say, people also ask, what are good banana growing conditions? And where are bananas found in the wild? And things like that. And you would want to take those directly, maybe change them up a bit, but you'd pretty much want to directly have those be your headings. So you'd have your title, which is how to grow bananas in Southern California. And then you'd have, your intro paragraph, and then heading 1, it would be, what is the optimal conditions for growing bananas? And you would describe that and you talk about that, and you'd want to make it as insightful as possible. When you speak naturally and you make it easy to read, that's a better strategy than trying to just stuff keywords in there, but you want your keywords to be good. Without keywords, you don't stand a chance. So that's basically how you'd work on constructing your blog. You'd want to just go through that process a lot, have a lot of patience. It's not always easy to write an entire blog post with SEO because it's not just your thoughts. You have to incorporate what Google wants you to say into your blog post. And then also you need patience because it takes a long time for your site to gain the reputation to where your blog articles start showing up in like the #1 spots. It takes a long time. And it also takes a long time for individual articles to take off. You might publish something that is on its way to the top, but it takes a year or 2 to get there. All right, so we'll go back to the site now. All right, so now we are editing the blog page. We've already got a theme for ourselves. We're going in the banana direction. So we'll just call this the banana blog. And then we'll select all, and we'll just drag that font size down to like 53, a more manageable size. We've got our sample text here. That's fine. We'll just leave that. And so we'll preview this and we'll see what it looks like. All right, and we've got our recently published blog posts, and this is just automatically pulled from your own blog. All right. Goodness, this is taking such a long time to load. Okay. Secret to B2B sales. That's great. It's like an actual, like gives us an actual blog post. Write your own. Don't try to steal your post from the sample blog posts. All right, so we'll go back to the editor. All right. So we will go to our home page. So we'll navigate to it right here. Main pages, home, bada bing, bada boom. So now that we've talked about our keywords for blogging, you want to use those same principles when designing your web pages. And that's different because it's not just paragraphs and paragraphs of text. So it's hard to, especially on home pages, like, it's not easy for every business, like lug nut manufacturers, to like include a lot of SEO in their home pages. But you don't want your page to be scattered, and you don't want to talk about tons and tons of different things on your homepage. Your homepage should be simple. I'm not going to get too into the design aspect of this. We have a blog post about that, like how to design a good looking website. I wrote it. I should know the title of it. So as far as like design and styling and stuff, I'd check that out and I'd use those recommendations. But in terms of like, for instance, this paragraph right here, like the about, like this is where you'd want to describe your company. I wouldn't go off the rails on these because again, there are bots like Google, and they are crawling the internet searching for what it thinks you should be saying. And so sometimes you just need to, like, on the about page, it should be about your company. You shouldn't go into other stuff that's off context. It'll hurt your organic traffic. All right, I like these trust icons. Biz Wizard is just hilarious. You can't say that to yourself in your head without laughing. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about, I'll stop sharing for this. All right, the last thing that I wanted to talk about is how to connect this site. So say you created a website, it looks presumably better than the one that we just made, and you want to connect it to your domain. You'd want to pay for a version of Wix. It's about like $18 a month, I want to say. And so you do that, and that allows it to be publishable. And then from there, you can publish it directly through Wix's or whichever. If you choose Squarespace or Shopify, they will present to you and they'll say, do you want to publish it through our site and get a domain and everything? And you can do that. That's often really easy. I find that GoDaddy has really cheap prices, so that's what I prefer to use. It's usually like $30 a year. It's ridiculously cheap. And they also offer some security, which I find nice. And depending on which builder you use to create your site, you'll have a bunch of different options as to how to set it up. You can follow the builder's options or your domain registrar's options. It's all pretty much the same thing. Honestly, it's not, you don't have to worry about anything bad happening if you follow one versus the other. And they'll also have really handy guides. The first time I did it, I think I learned how to do it in like 20 minutes, just like as I was doing it. So it's nothing to be intimidated by. And then the top level stuff, anything like the top layer of the website sandwich that we described, anything that goes on top of your website can be done with simple integrations as easy as like putting a tracking code in your website. You'll never have to like change your code fundamentally and like make room for this thing. If you want something to track your site, it already exists, and you just give it authorization by putting a code hidden in your website. So users can't see it. It's in like the actual coding. Usually you just copy and paste like a little thingy, and there's like a spot for it right on your page builder. And it'll say like any tracking code goes here. So you put it there, and then like Google will have, like for instance, if you want to set up like your domain to receive emails through Google and through G Suite, you give it a Google code, and then bing, you're done. So the top layer is super easy. The bottom layer, the domain registrars, it seems intimidating. It's really not. It's 2021. There's like a YouTube video on how to do everything, and there are PDFs and support articles. And then the website that we created, that we put bananas everywhere for, that's a visual editor, and we walked through how to make a landing page. We walked through how to mess with your forms and how to change backgrounds and drag the strips and change the text and everything like that. And those are the fundamentals. Obviously, there's a ton more that I can't fit into this session, but those are the fundamentals. And if you click through and you see all the cool things that you can do, it's very easy to make a stunning looking website that actually does what you want it to and captures leads. So I think that's all we're going to cover today. And yeah, give me a follow on social media if you have any questions about this. I'm here. I'm working from home every day. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me directly. I'd love to answer these one-on-one. Thank you.
Well, Jack, thanks so much for teaching us today. You really do make all of this look easy. Before I let you go, I do have a couple follow-up questions. You used Wix for this demonstration. I know that's a relatively popular solution. It's pretty cheap and easy to use. Do you always recommend Wix for small businesses that need a website? And if not, I was wondering if you had any tips for which website building software to choose.
Good question. Thank you. Yeah, actually, I don't always recommend Wix. Wix is the go-to example. It's easy to use. You don't need any training in order to create a website with it. It's functionally similar to, like I mentioned, Weebly, Squarespace, Shopify. And each of those offers slightly different functionalities. Like, for instance, if you are an e-commerce business, you might prefer Shopify because it's geared towards that. So it's when you create your pages, you're creating them around the idea that you're going to be selling on those. And if you have the development resources, I would totally recommend creating a WordPress website. It's more difficult. You need to actually do some coding, but it'll get you to where you want to go. It's got more capabilities. You can do anything with it because you're actually messing with the code in it. So if you need a website to get your brand out there and to, have your customers be able to find you, Wix is a great way to start. And it's worked for most of the people who I've consulted for. It's been the solution that I presented to them. But it's not always the best fit.
Got it. And my second question, at Nutshell, you mainly focus on content and SEO. So speaking as a marketer, what do you think is the second step after building a new website? So let's say you have a client, they followed all your advice from the session, they have a functional website now. What do you tell them to do next to start drawing in website visitors?
That's another good question. So I've done that before. And the next step is always to install G Suite on top of it. Mess with your Google listings as much as you can. So you want to set up your Google My Business. You want to get your email addresses at your domain. So no one's emailing, bengoldstein@gmail.com. They're emailing Ben Goldstein at benswebsite.com. That's, a must have. And it also gives you some insight into where you're getting your traffic from. And Google Search Console will let you know what people are searching for to get to you. The next step, and I don't just say this because it's my job here at Nutshell. The next step is to start getting organic traffic by various self-promotion methods, including blogging. Blogging is the biggest one. So every business has their own field and their own niche. It's why they're successful. It's why these people are looking to build a website to begin with. And when you start talking about those things in public on a blog, especially with the right keywords, people who are looking for that expertise and that view will find you. And that's how you start to generate leads. And they go in those forms that we created and straight into your inbox.
Yep. Well, thanks again, Jack. And by the way, please follow this man on LinkedIn. You will not regret it. And thanks to all of you for watching and spending some time with us today. Take care.